So Naoko is our yoga instructor. I am the exercise physiologist for Flux Life. We do teach fitness and yoga. We do this on our Zoom classes, live Zoom classes weekly. And then we also have online memberships as well. So we have our own app now that we've been using. We assign yoga workouts, fitness workouts. We have different memberships for fitness, different memberships for yoga. And then we do have one membership that kind of involves both. They're workouts that you do on your own time, whenever works best for you, but you communicate and stay in touch with us as well. So I think most of you guys are familiar with that, but I just want to kind of remind you guys of the things that we offer. Everything's on fluxlife.com. So if you haven't been there lately, we also revamped our website a little bit ago. So if you haven't been to the new website, go check it out. It looks a little bit different than it did just a few weeks ago. Then lastly, we have something coming up. So we've been doing, Noko's in the midst of her second meditation challenge, 14-day meditation challenge. This is the second one we did. And we've had really great response. People have really loved it the first time around. People are doing really great the second time around. They're kind of finished that first week and they're going into that second week. So people have really enjoyed that. And so we thought, we would open this up and try to do this a little bit more frequently with maybe some of our other specialties. So coming in April, we're actually going to be doing a 2-week fitness challenge. So it's going to be a free 2-week fitness challenge, kind of like a similar concept of kind of getting people just started and rolling with fitness and maybe getting a chance to try out like the way that our app works and join our community and figure that out. So most of you guys, I think you're on our email list. If you're not, just make sure you're on our email list because we'll be sending out information on how to join that in just a couple weeks. So that'll be about mid-April, we'll do that. So if you're interested, stay tuned. We'll be talking about that. And then I'll just turn it over to Naoko. She's gonna introduce our speaker today.
So I'm going to be introducing George. George, we just met, but we were just excited because just speaking to him and hearing about how much passion for helping people relieving pain. And I know, all of us actually have pain in our bodies, and that's the reason why we're all here. But he's really amazing. He has so much experience, over 20 years in massage and a very special technique called the Integrative Modalities Bodywork that I'm sure he's going to be talking about. I had the pleasure of receiving a massage from him yesterday, and I have to tell you, it was such amazing body work, and I could feel the energy. I told him even towards the end, I said, I can just feel like your good energy coming through your hands and your whole body. So I felt kind of like in a daze for a little while. But I feel so good. So I'm so grateful to have him here sharing his knowledge of the work that he's been doing. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and send it over to George. Thank you, George.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for that. That was very sweet of you, and I'm glad you feel better. So Lily Naoko have asked me here today to talk to y'all because we share a mutual passion. And that is to help as many people as we can become more productive, happier, and feel better in their bodies. They help people through their yoga and fitness practices at Flux Life. And I do it through my bodywork practice at the Pain Relief Center. I'm really here today just to present another resource that might help you or someone you know take better care of themselves, especially if pain is problematic. So for over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to give you some information about pain, and some of it you may have heard before, and some of it actually you may not have heard before. So if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into your chat box. I'll try to answer them as they go, but I'm not sure if I can do the technology to get back to them. But if not, at the end, we'll have a little bit of time to talk about, anything specific that's going on with you or any questions you may have. So let me start off by telling you a bit about who I am and something about my team at the Pain Relief Center. I got into massage as a result of my involvement in endurance sports training. That's triathlon, marathons, the Waikiki rough water swim, the double rough water swim. And it was something that my body wasn't really prepared for when I started this 25 years ago. I am not a natural athlete, and training for triathlon and marathons created quite a few issues that my body just wasn't really prepared to handle. So at the suggestion of my coaches, I started getting regular massages. Before then, I can't really even recall that I even had a massage before. I certainly hadn't had any body work. I have a long history of back pain. I first hurt my back when I was in my 20s, and have had problems ever since then. I've had surgery to help resolve the back pain, and now the real problems don't happen anymore. Now it's just kind of an ongoing maintenance. But it was during one of those sessions that I thought, hey, I could do this. And the next thing I knew is I was in massage school, and then I studied acupuncture, and then voila, 4 years later, I had a brand new career. At first, all of my clients were the athletes that I trained with. I trained with a team, and so I knew a lot of athletes, and my coaches knew a lot of other athletes. So I was pretty well booked even before I got my license. But it didn't really take very long before those athletic clients started referring their family, their friends, their spouses. And I learned that you didn't really have to be an athlete to benefit from massage. I learned that while people develop pain for a variety of reasons, the way I dealt with it was the same, regardless of whether they were an elite athlete or a confirmed couch potato. So over the years, I started studying many different types of modalities and incorporated them into the work that I was doing. And gradually, as I started to add more energetic and kind of metaphysical modalities in it, I started moving away from simply massage into something that was much deeper. And eventually, I developed my own style of working that I teach to all the therapists I work with. I've had retreats where therapists from the mainland have come in, and I've taught them this, and I call this Integrated Modalities Bodywork. So there are 3 therapists at the Pain Relief Center, myself, Kevin Schoonmaker, and Jennifer Schoonmaker. And yes, they're married, and they got married about a year ago after having worked together at the Pain Relief Center. And I truly believe in surrounding myself with people who have as much or more to offer than I do. And I got to tell you, I struck the jackpot when I found Kevin and Jennifer. They're both amazing therapists. I know that a lot of people, when they have talked to me and they come to the Pain Relief Center, they want to work with me. But Jennifer and Kevin are equally amazing, and we're building the business on the fact that the 3 of us, while we have our own styles, all have the same foundation of the Integrated Modalities Bodywork. I worked with both Kevin and Jen for a long time before I started, giving them my clients, because I felt like my clients needed to have someone like me if they weren't going to be seeing me. And the reality of it is that I'm just one guy, and I can only do work on so many people at one time, and there are so many people that need help. I needed help, and I feel blessed every day that I've found Kevin and Jen, and that they're part of our team. But if you're not familiar with the difference between massage and body work, let me kind of give you a little bit of an explanation about that. When most people think of massage, they think of something nice and relaxing and soothing. And massage is absolutely one of our tools, but it's just a tool. It's a big part of what we do when we're doing something like a full body massage, but it's a relatively small part when we're doing something deeper and something that's more therapeutic. Bodywork approaches pain on both physical and non-physical levels and incorporates a much broader range of tools than just massage. Bodywork is generally a little more challenging for the person that's receiving the work. And that's because change happens just at the edge of too much. So we want to take our clients that we're working on just to the point where they're almost ready to tap out. And then we help them release that and work through that, specifically through the use of breathing techniques. The use of your breath is so important, not just in the body work, but in yoga. I'm sure Naoko teaches breathing techniques, and really just in life itself. Once you learn these techniques about breathing, you can use them at any time. Like I'll get into traffic, and I'm like starting to freak out, and if I can take a couple of deep cleansing breaths, then I calm down. It's so important. Body work is also more of kind of a seek and destroy method. We're looking for the root sources of pain and applying whatever tools we have in our toolbox to eliminate those sources. And just from experience, I can tell you that a single complaint is rarely caused by a single root source. You're all connected. But one big question and thing that people don't understand is, where do these root sources come from, and what are they? Our bodies are like storybooks of our lives. They contain and carry with them all of the stories that have happened to us from a very young age to the present moment, and everything that will happen to us in the future. They're all recorded not only in our soft tissue, but in the energetic layers as well, even down to the level of the cells. That's why some things can be even generational, because the cells and the experiences that your grandfather or grandmother went through are the same cells that you carry. So there are things that can happen from way back. It's a generational kind of issue. And what that means is that something that happens to us as kids, or in our wild teenage years, or even something that happened to a year ago, could be a part of a root source that's causing problems now. And that includes both the physical components of what happened to you, as well as the emotional and the energetic responses you had to that event, as well. When we're dealing with resolving pain, each component of and response to that story or those series of stories has to be addressed. And you have to remember that something that's been brewing in you for 10 or 20 or 30 years isn't something that any therapist can get out in an hour or two. And that's what makes consistency such an important part of managing pain. Over the past 25 years, I've literally worked on over 30,000 bodies. And I've learned this to be true. The people who are the most comfortable in their bodies are the ones who are the most consistent in having their bodies worked on, period. That's just how it is. It doesn't matter if you're a yoga instructor like Naoko, if you're a dedicated couch potato, if you're someone who sits at a computer all day and you don't think that you're really doing anything, that's specific to a certain type of pain. It's just that all of those stories that we've carried on with us for our entire lives are all cumulative, and pretty soon they start just kind of adding up. And sure, there are instances where a single session with a body worker or chiropractor or even your doctor is enough to resolve some issue, like a back pain or neck pain or something. But if you want to maintain a healthy body, you've got to pay attention to that body. And I'm sure Naoko and Lily would both agree. It's like a car. You wouldn't drive your car for years and years and years through all the extremes of weather and different driving conditions without giving it regular maintenance. And that's just a bunch of metal we're talking about. You simply can't use and abuse your body and expect it to function without issues. Yet that's exactly what we do. Our bodies are incredible, but they require attention, and especially as we get younger, like me. So consistency is just a way to keep your body in tip-top shape, and it's the #1 tool for guaranteeing that you're going to be living a pain-free life. Most people don't really understand where pain comes from, and this is something that a lot of doctors don't explain. This is something that you probably might not be familiar with. But my perspective is that you don't really totally have to understand, or that you have to understand where the pain originates if you really want to understand how to treat it appropriately. So the most important thing to understand is that pain is a red flag. It's your body telling you that something's wrong and it needs your attention. It's not normal, and it's definitely not something you should get used to or think that it is normal, or that's just the way it is, because it's an indicator. It's your body telling you that there's something a little wrong, and it's waving its little red flag and saying, hey, pay attention to this. The simple version is that there are 3 types of pain. Visceral pain originates in the internal organs or the tissues. This type of pain is most commonly treated by your doctor. If you have pain that persists or causes you to worry, you should absolutely, positively consult your physician. They may do some tests, they may not find anything, but it's just important to know what it isn't as to know what it is. The structural pain originates in the skeletal system. This is something you usually see a chiropractor or an osteopathic physician for. If it's something serious, perhaps you might even need to see an orthopedist. Again, you can always start with a consult with your primary care physician. The third type of pain is called myofascial pain and is musculoskeletal in origins. This means it's coming either from the soft tissue, from the muscles, or the connective tissue. This is something that this is what we specialize in. We specialize in myofascial pain, but we also, although we can't cure something that originates viscerally or structurally, we can help you manage the pain that's associated with those issues, right? So having this knowledge is an easy way to make pain a little less daunting, especially if it's something that you've had for a long time. And it gives you a sense of control over what to do and who best to help you. Pain can be an incredibly complicated issue, especially when you're looking at the wrong source of treatment. I can't tell you how many times someone comes to us and says that their doctors have told them there's nothing wrong with you. We can't find anything, and it must all be in your head, right? And even though your doctor may run tests, they still may not be able to put their fingers on the cause. But pain is real. To anybody who has it, that pain is real. It's not in your head. If you're in pain and you can't seem to find anyone who can figure it out, perhaps it's caused by something that Western medicine isn't really equipped to handle, and that's where we come in. One of the most common causes of pain and the most misunderstood are trigger points. Trigger points are focused areas of hyperirritability that present themselves in a tight muscle band. So if you're not tight, you won't have trigger points. But if you've been tight and you're not now, but you were another point, it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, then trigger points are just an inevitable part of that cycle. They don't appear on X-rays or MRIs or CAT scans, and they're often, not even seen, but they're real nonetheless. Trigger points develop when the contractile mechanisms in muscle fiber cells get bound up or stuck. The whole thing is like climbing up a ladder, and it makes the walls of the cells come closer together. But there are times when those cells aren't able to go the other way and to extend. It's kind of like a pile up on the freeway. Once one cell gets stuck, then another cell gets stuck, then another cell gets stuck, and pretty soon there's an entire section of muscle fibers that form what people commonly refer to as a knot. This isn't happening just in a single muscle fiber, though. A muscle fiber is very, very small. This happens in multiple muscle fibers, all next to each other. And not only do they cause localized pain, but these trigger points that result also cause what's referred to as referred pain. It's pain that originates in one place, but is felt in another. So you can have a knot, you can have this bunch of contracted cells, but they're not actually causing you big problems until they turn into a trigger point. And trigger points affect basically the electrical conduits that are in our bodies. We are electrical entities. We operate off of a body, and when those electrical centers are disturbed, it causes all sorts of issues. And one of those things that it causes is referred pain that originates in one place, but it's felt in another. And this is what makes diagnosing pain so difficult unless you understand how trigger points work. So here's an example. I had a client who was just a week or so away from having a surgical procedure to correct carpal tunnel syndrome. There was no real firm diagnosis to specifically diagnose carpal tunnel, but her doctor assumed that her symptoms of numbness and tingling in the hands, loss of grip strength, reduced range of motion, he just assumed that was carpal tunnel syndrome and suggested surgery to resolve it. So she was actually going to do it. Her husband was a client, and he suggested that she see me first. And do you know what happened? After one session of working on the trigger points in her shoulder, which is an area that's not even really close to her hand, her pain was about 70% better. And so she canceled the surgery. She came a couple more times, and after just 2 or 3 sessions, the pain was completely gone. What was actually happening to her was that she had just had a baby. And so you pay attention to this, Lily. She had just had a baby, and the way that she was holding the baby as she was breastfeeding was causing the muscles in her shoulders to tighten and cause trigger points, which referred down to her hand. And that's what was causing the pain. Once we released the trigger points, then the pain went away and the issue was resolved. The same thing can happen with people who think they're having sciatic pain or even headaches. They can all be caused by trigger points. The pain may not be necessarily coming from your back or coming from your head. But fortunately, these referred pain patterns are well documented and fairly predictable if you know what to look for. And that's one of the things that we specialize in. And it's we have a whole variety of tools that we call on, and using addressing trigger points is one of the main things that we address. So how we do that is through this technique that I've developed over the past 25 years, and that's called Integrated Modalities Bodywork. It evolved from my experience working on a lot of different types of bodies and issues over the past 25 years, and studying and then gradually incorporating a wide range of Western, Eastern, and energetic healing techniques into what I was doing. The Western components of our work are really just as important as the Eastern and the energetic aspects, although the Eastern and the energetic, especially the energetic aspects, are sometimes the things that get the most attention. Anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology, for example, they're imperative to the kind of body work that we do, because if you don't know where you are in a body or how that part works, or even more importantly, what other structures lie beneath the soft tissue you're working on, then not only will you not be effective, but you could actually hurt somebody. Both trigger point therapy and myofascial release, which addresses a type of connective tissue called fascia, are both based in Western research and development. So the Western aspect is really very important, and that's the main thing that you learn when you go to massage school. But in the course of the 2 years that I spent looking for Kevin, I discovered that there's a lot of massage therapists out there that don't know their anatomy and they don't know physiology, and it kind of worries me. So even though, you know, we would love to help you, of course, but even if you choose to go to somebody else, one thing I would advise you on is make sure that you go to somebody who has a firm foundation in knowing how the body works. The Eastern components are taken primarily from the tenets of traditional Chinese medicine, which revolve around the flow of qi, or your body's life energy. According to traditional Chinese medicine, the absence or overabundance of qi is the direct cause of pain and illness and disease. And this includes the emotions. Having an abundance or an overabundance of anger is just as viable of a cause as the overabundance of joy or the absence of joy. The qi flows through a loop of connected channels or meridians, and that essentially make the body a single entity. This viewpoint means that the body is now not simply a series of symptoms or limbs attached to a torso, but rather it's an entire system, so that whatever happens in one part of the body or in one meridian has a direct effect on the body as a whole. That's why it's not uncommon for us to start working on the left side of the body when the complaint is on the right, or we work on the top when the complaint is on the bottom, or the front when the complaint is on the back. Traditional Chinese modalities really resonate with Kevin. He uses cupping to pull toxins out of the channels towards the surface of the skins, where our bodies can eliminate them through both the lymph and the circulatory systems. Gua Sha is another traditional Chinese technique. It's kind of a scraping technique that uses an assortment of just different instruments in specific ways to help the nervous system better transmit information between our brains and the affected parts of our body. However, it's the third component of our work that makes the work we do so effective, and that's the energy work. If you don't have any real experience with energy work, simply put, it's a way for the practitioner to connect with source energy and to channel it into achieving a specific intention, an intention that is set not only by the receiver, but is also held by the practitioner as well. So source energy is basically just one name for a universal energy. It's the source that's available to all of us. It's God, it's whatever you want to call it. When used with an intention and in a specific way, the practitioner is able to direct that energy towards whatever it is the receiver needs. The cool thing about energy work is that since energy is, energy, it doesn't adhere to the law of physics. It isn't confined to either space or time. This means that you don't have to be in the same place as the practitioner to receive the benefits. Distance work is just as effective as if you were in the same room. The other cool thing is that there are many different routes to access source energy. Similar to the idea that you can plug a lamp into any socket in your house or in your neighbor's house, the lamp will still come on. Source energy, regardless of how you access it, all comes from the same place. Different routes would be Reiki, for example, which a lot of people have heard of. We also at the Pain Relief Center use a practice called Ho'omanaloa, which is an energy practice that's part of an ancient Hawaiian tradition known as Huna. Jen, who is resonates particularly with energetic work, uses a technique called theta healing, which is where the energy is directed towards the theta waves that our brain generates, which is what is part of the process that forms our thoughts, our beliefs, or even our habits. Kevin utilizes a branch of energy work from traditional Chinese medicine called Qigong. So whatever the root, the goal is the same, to use energy to achieve a set intention. The fourth component is relatively new, and that's technology. I started getting involved with low-level laser therapy when I was helping a friend of mine who was in a terrible, terrible accident several years ago. I don't know if you heard about the triathlete who was hit by the car up on Tantalus. She was a friend who I trained with and have known and worked on for several years. And the damage that did to her was extensive. And I was introduced to this fellow who was using low-level lasers. He wasn't a body worker. In fact, he's a lawyer, but he was very much into healing. And through a mutual friend, I met him, and he came over and brought all of his lasers with him, and we started working on her. And the results were slow and minimal, but really actually pretty amazing. And so that's how I kind of got into lasers, which have both a physiological and an energetic effect. If you're not familiar with lasers generate a specific wavelength. In our case, it's a 600 nanometer range that our eyes perceive as red. It differs from any other form of red light therapy or LED lights in that the laser is specifically designed to create a wavelength that does not vary in shape. This is important because that wavelength, the laser produces energy that is delivered in the troughs of the wavelength. And that energy stimulates the mitochondria, which are the energy producing cells of energy producing centers of the cells. So what happens is that the red light hits the skin, it stimulates the mitochondria to generate energy, and the cells then follow a set of instructions that are transmitted by the frequency of the wavelength. In other words, the way that the light blinks, and it can blink anywhere from 1 time per second up to 10,000 times per second. These frequencies deliver specific instructions. It could be specific to inflammation, specific to pain, to improving scarring, and to about 300 other different things. It's an amazing resource. And unlike other modalities, it actually affects the soft tissue at a cellular level. It actually changes what the cells are communicating to each other. So all 4 of these components blend together in different ways, depending on what's needed by the particular client and the particular situation and the particular therapist. What works for one person or for one client may not work for another. Ken and Jen and I each have our own specific styles and a way of incorporating all of these techniques in different ways. The whole idea of integrated modalities work is that while we have the same foundations and the same goals, we are able to incorporate whatever specific things resonate with us individually. And those things are always changing. well, we're each all doing different seminars, we're learning different techniques, and those things are what gives each of us our own particular style. And the thing about it is that I may be able to help you with one thing, but then I'll get stuck on on something that's not responding the way I wanted to. So I'll send you to Kevin, and Kevin can help you in a different way, or may send you to Jen. She can help you in a different way. So it's working with individual styles that have the same foundation in ways that achieve a specific goal, and that is to help as many people as we can feel better in their bodies. So that kind of in a nutshell is basically who we are and what we do. Like I said, we feel like our mission is to help as many people as we can. We have lots of tools to do that with, and we feel like the bigger picture for us is that while we don't have a global reach, the best way that we can help the world is to help make our little corner of it just a little bit better. So if you've got something we can help you with, you can feel free to contact us. I gave Naoko and Lily a copy of our little e-brochure called Living a Pain-Free Life that talks a bit more about the things I've mentioned. Plus, you'll all be receiving a 10% discount exclusively for Flex Life clients. So that's what I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Can
Sure.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Where are you located?
We're on Kapahulu Avenue. Are you familiar with Kapahulu?
Yeah.
So we're just down from the Safeway, across from where the old American Savings Bank used to be, from Ono Seafood. There's a couple of little moped shops right there. Well, we're behind and above the moped shops.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll give you a call. Sounds very interesting. I'm
Yeah.
always looking for new ideas. Sometimes the Western way doesn't work, and they're all pushing for surgery.
You know, the Western, and this is not a fault of Western doctors. I know some Western doctors that are very enlightened and very much into finding different alternatives, but for the most part, Western doctors aren't trained to recognize these kind of things. Their focus is on pharmaceutical solutions, on surgeries, on other procedural type of things. I'm always happy when a doctor refers to physical therapy, or some will refer to a chiropractor, or some even actually refer and believe in massage and acupuncture. But I don't find fault with them at all. They do what they do quite well. It's just that, especially when you're dealing with pain, and especially with myofascial pain or pain that comes from another issue, they just don't know how to deal with it other than prescribing pain meds.
So if you get a script from a doctor, a PT script, can we go to your place?
You don't even need a prescription. We don't really do insurance work other than no fault and workers' comp. That's primarily because massage is not really a part of most insurance policies. Massage, it can be a rider onto your insurance policy, but there are not many insurance policies that massage is billed directly to the insurance company. It's billed through a third-party billing company, and they have their own specific set of hoops to jump through. And although I did participate in that for a while, I would much rather offer someone, if they can't afford it, I would much rather work with somebody from a financial point of view than to offer my services that are forced you know, that what my rate is forced by an insurance company. That really drives me crazy.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Um,
Can I ask? I'm handicapped and I can't walk upstairs. Is your place, does it have an elevator?
no, unfortunately, it does not. You know, I'm surprised that the landlords haven't been busted by the ADA, you know, guardians yet, because it's an old building. I know if you're familiar with Kaka'ako, um, it's an old building, and you know, there's a staircase to come up, but you know, especially as you can see from or saw from the picture of Kevin, he's a big guy, and he has helped many clients come up those stairs. There's not a ton of them, but you know, it is challenging to some of our clients, and we do everything we can to, you know, help accommodate that. So I got a question from A Mente about describing what happens in an IMB session. So basically what that is and wait, just before I answer that, did my screen actually share? Did you see all of that?
No, sorry. I wasn't sure when you were going to start sharing it, and then you were just kind of on a roll. So then I didn't want to cut you off in the middle, so I sent you that message. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I couldn't see that.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you missed everything?
Well, you described it well, I think.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
okay. So what happens in a session is that someone comes in and we have a chat with them, and just find out what's going on and a little bit of history as to what happened you know, in their past life, and then work on establishing what they want as a goal for that session and how we can help them feel better. And then we just kind of start. It's a process, you know, our bodies are layers, and there can be issues on a superficial layer that are easily resolved, but then there can be issues on a deeper level that are much more difficult to resolve, and you just have to kind of peel through the layers, which is why consistency is so important, because you have it's something sometimes like a 3 steps forward 2 steps back process. A lot of people aren't able to change the thing that's causing them the problem in the first place. For example, if you have upper back and neck and shoulder pain that's coming from working on a computer all day long every day, and that's your job, you're not going to quit, right? So the thing that's actually causing the issue to happen is going to be a constant factor in there. So sometimes it's a 3 steps forward 2 steps back kind of thing, but once we get you from you know, down below the normal level and get you up to normal, then that's where the sessions start becoming a little more maintenance and a little less therapeutic, right? So the techniques we use, especially on trigger points, is holding a sustained pressure that generates heat, that helps to make the fascia and the tissue a little less viscous, which makes them easier to move. You know, that's one technique. So sometimes I'll go an entire session and never even use any lotion. You know, I'll do a little bit of nicey after I do a little bit of challenge work. And so, you know, there's lots of different things that happen, but the biggest thing that happens during the session is release. That's what we're looking for, is getting people to release those areas that are tight and that are bound together, that have an energetic component, and that are really the root source of the problem. So Barbara is saying that she sits at the computer for hours and has lots of muscle pain. And she thinks it's either tendonitis or bursitis. It feels like there are beads under the skin of her upper legs. Are those trigger points? Well, they very well could be trigger points. They could just be tight areas. They could be, you know, those knots that I referred to. If you're feeling like something that's tendonitis or bursitis, which could be true, but it could be referred pain. There, anything that ends in itis, itis, means a swelling or an inflammation. So absolutely sitting at a computer for hours at a time and holding your arms in an isometric contraction like that could cause some tendonitis or bursitis, but it could be that that is released once those trigger points are released. So, you know, there's the thing about this is that there's no guarantee or no set it is or it isn't in this. Your body is so complicated that it's rarely one thing, right? There could be something going on in your shoulders, but it also could be coming from, you know, your lower back from sitting for so long. It could come from your hamstrings, which after sitting you've trained to be contracted, and once you release those, the back starts to release, and then the upper body starts to release, and then the issue in your shoulders doesn't ever go away. I mean, then it starts to go away. The tendonitis or the bursitis, I would suggest that you try. Have you tried icing it, Barbara? Do you apply ice? Can we unmute Barbara?
Yep.
Where's Barbara? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, does icing help?
It does. It's mostly, it's like I need a new job.
Well, that may
which isn't going to happen.
But you know, if you're using ice and it's not really helping the pain to go away, then that is a good indicator that the pain that you're feeling isn't coming from the area that you're treating. Do you ever take any, you know, I'm not a huge proponent of pharmaceuticals, but I do believe that we humans have been given the intelligence and the knowledge to develop things that, like pharmaceuticals, that can help us. And sometimes they're a godsend, you know. Do you ever try to take like Advil or ibuprofen?
Yeah, I take Celebrex every day.
Oh, you take Celebrex every day.
I have stenosis and a lot of like back stuff.
Well, see, while we can't resolve the stenosis, we can help release the muscles that are holding that stenosis in place. Because once there's a deviation, especially in the spine, in the vertebrae, once there's a deviation in that, the muscles readjust themselves to compensate for that. One of the main jobs of the erector spinae group, all of the little tiny intrinsic muscles that connect the vertebrae one to another, one of their big jobs is to protect the spinal cord, right? Something happens to the spinal cord, you have big problems. So if there's a deviation in the spine, like with a stenosis or with a spondy or something like that, then the muscles have a tendency to readjust, to hold that in place, because their job is to protect the spine. That's why sometimes if you go to a chiropractor, they can't get an adjustment because the muscles just won't let go because they're doing their job. You know, it's like, did you ever see any of the Batman movies where the protective shield comes up around the bat car? That's exactly the same thing. Something that happens to the spine, the muscles go into protect mode, and you have to use specific techniques working on them to help them realize that you're okay. They don't have to stay that tight, and they can, chill out a little bit. So, I think that the stenosis part could actually be part of the problem that you're having with the shoulders. That's where you're feeling the tendonitis and bursitis, right, in your shoulders.
Shoulders, and then like all of my inner legs, like around the knees, like it's all burning.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother issue. So that burning feeling that you have, that is one of the big symptoms that has to do with fascial restrictions. Sometimes when we're working on people and I'm working specifically on the fascia, that's one of their biggest pieces of feedback, is that, oh my God, that feels like it's burning, right? So you've trained that like the latiss medialis muscle, the medialis obliques, all of the quads, all of your hamstrings. And incidentally, your hamstrings are not the biggest muscles in the back of your legs. Your hamstrings, and I know this is true because I've seen them. I've done gross anatomy on cadavers, and your hamstrings they're menini. Your hamstrings are little tiny things. What's the big part of your leg is that vastus lateralis muscle, which is part of your quad. It wraps around the side of your leg. It's what gives your thigh that big shape. And so a lot of the problems that people have in the backs of their legs are actually coming from a muscle that originates in the front of their legs. And, so sitting all the time, that just causes all those muscles in your leg, particularly in your whole thigh, the quads, the hamstrings, the adductors, causes them to be in that same kind of isometric contraction as your arms, your shoulders are in when you're sitting at a computer, right? So you train your muscles to be shortened, and then when you stand up or when you walk or when you do something that is asking those same contracted muscles to expand and contract and expand and contract, they just don't know what to do, right? They're confused because you've trained them to be short, and now you're asking them to do something that they're not used to, and so they start screaming. And that's when you end up with feeling like you have something like tendonitis or bursitis or sciatica or any number of other things, knee pain. Your knee pain is a joint that is surrounded by those four groups of muscles, the quads on the top, the hamstrings, and the vastus lateralis, the adductors on the inside, the tensor fasciae lata, and the IT band on the outside. And if any of those muscles are tighter or putting more torque on the knee, on that joint, than the other muscles are, it throws the whole knee off. Your patella, your kneecap, is not a bone that's attached to anything. It's embedded in a tendon, and it's kind of like a tongue and groove thing. It goes back and forth between the epicondyles of the bones. And so if you're torquing it, that thing is that patella is sliding in an odd way, in a non-normal manner, and then you end up with knee problems because it's torquing it in a weird kind of way. Yeah, sure, Ryan. Yeah, we address arthritis, the pain associated with arthritis. Now, there's nothing that we can do to affect the joint itself. Excuse me, I'm not used to talking so much. There's nothing that we can really do to address the arthritis itself. So our arthritis, another word that ends in itis, is where the joint becomes swollen. And then there's no room for movement. I mean, I'm very familiar with this I have arthritis in my hands now, which is like not a great thing for a body worker to have, but you know, after 25 years, it's not expected, and it's, you know, not totally intense, but like I can't close my finger. This is as far as I can close this, as I can bend this finger, because the joints are swollen inside. There's no room for them to do their typical range of motion. And then associated with the arthritis, you often get issues with the connective tissue around that joint. So while there's nothing that we can do specifically to resolve the arthritis, there are things that we can do to help manage the pain that's associated with the arthritis. So now, one thing that is like really amazing for arthritis pain is Epsom salt soaks. I don't know if you're familiar with Epsom salts, but Epsom salts are not the same as like table salts or Hawaiian sea salt or anything like that. They're more closely related to ocean salts, but what they do is it's a charged thing, right? There's a negative and positive charges. So they create a positive charge in the water, and those negative hydrogen ions and the things that are in toxins that are in your body, they kind of get pulled out. So, you know, a soak in an Epsom salts, you know, like I use like a pan, and I put Epsom salts and I soak my hands in them. You can put them in a bathtub and soak in a bathtub, nice hot water, and don't pay any attention to the instructions on the box. Just dump in as much Epsom salts as you can, because the higher the concentration, the more the more able it is to pull out some of those things that are causing some of the pain.
Great, thanks. That's very helpful.
Yeah, and you know, if what area of your body is affected?
I've noticed my wrist, my right wrist and my right knee for some reason. So yeah.
So has that been, have they done x-rays?
Yes.
And
yes.
so they can see that it's the actual joint itself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you know, I have this great product that I use. It's called Inflamiar, and I use it all the time on my clients and on myself. It's a homeopathic ointment, and it really is effective on reducing inflammation. I use, for myself on my hands, I use a combination of the Inflamiar. I use another product called Voltaren. Have you heard of that one?
Yes, I just heard about that one.
Yeah,
yes.
Voltaren.
Yes.
I use Voltaren, and then I use this combination of 3 essential oils. It's frankincense, coiba, and turmeric. Wow. And I just make up this. I just put it all 1, 2, 3, 4, all 5 of them in my hand, and then just, you know, blend up, and I just rub it all over my hands. And I do that 2 or 3 times a day, and it makes it much more manageable. I can tell, you know, like if I get busy and I don't really use it like I should, my hands get a little stiffer too. So that's another thing, and all of that's, well, with the exception of the Voltaren. I don't think the Voltaren's not a homeopathic. It has some kind of topical pain analgesic
chemicals,
ingredients in it. But you know, the Inflamiar is totally homeopathic, and so are the essential oils.
My sister swears by that Voltaren. She said she puts it on the night before, and then before she goes to sleep in the morning, the pain's like, wow, you know.
It is.
Mobility.
It does work great. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, and because I get this like stabbing pain in the dorsal aspect of my hand, or right down my finger, and I just keep that tube of Voltaren right by my bed, and I'll rub some of that on there, and it really does work. It's not, you know, it's not a magic pill, but you know, nothing until they come up with some sort of, you know, magic pill for arthritis. It's not an issue of solving the problem. It's a perfect example of managing the problem.
Right.
It's management. You know, that's all you can do, because it is what it is. right? It just is what it is. So all you can do is manage it. But some of your problems could conceivably be coming from your shoulder or your arm that's making things in your wrist and your hand a little worse. So if you resolve those, it may be something that makes the pain in your hands just a little more manageable. It could be coming from your neck or your upper back. There's never, like I said, there's never one root source. Pain is never coming from just one place.
I discovered that when I started doing Flex Life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but credit to Nelco and Lily is that they give us modifications to, work around that. So yeah, but yeah, I'd like to. That's something I need to work on. But yeah, thanks. That good suggestions. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and the sooner you start, the sooner you find something. I hear from people all the time. Well, I should do something about that. I need to do something about that. Well, I'm sure Lily and Naoko have heard this tons of times that, yeah, I need to do yoga. I need to do something like that. The hardest thing about getting started is just getting started.
Yeah.
But once you do and you kind of get going on it, then it becomes part of a lifestyle, just like yoga and fitness should be part of a lifestyle.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
George, I think Bonnie was asking so there's frankincense, turmeric, and what was the third essential oil?
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Yeah, frankincense, turmeric, and cioba. It's spelled COPAIBA. And I get all of mine from doTERRA oil. The thing that I like about those oils is that they are ingestible. There's lots of essential oils that you do not want to ingest, because they can cause all kinds of problems. But the ones with doTERRA are like pharmaceutical grade, for lack of a better term. So most of those are safe, that you could put some of them in your tea, or your coffee, or in a glass of water, or your juice, or whatever you want, and ingest them. I know, like essential oils like oregano are like intense, but they're great if you get like a cold or a flu. You just put a drop or two under your tongue, and it's an intense taste, sensation, and experience, but it's really great. Also, like with oregano, if you get a cold or something like that, you put it on the bottoms of your feet, and that helps with it. That helps with it too, with colds and flu things. So yeah, essential oils are something that we're just kind of starting to get into, and Kevin especially is getting into the essential oils. He has a treatment that he's developed. We call it the Get Well Soon treatment, and that incorporates a whole series of essential oils with massage and heat, and it's amazing for colds and flus. I've done that before, and it's really effective for that. Yeah, the Inflammayar, it's INFLAMYAR. Yeah, I sell it at my office. I also sell another product from doTERRA called Deep Blue. It's kind of like Tiger Balm, only it's all homeopathic too. It's all natural ingredients. There's no petroleum byproducts or chemicals in that as well. And the Inflammayar, both the Inflammayar and the Deep Blue, are not over-the-counter products that you can get. You can get them through me. You could get them through Kevin. But the Inflammayar is something that it's like a professional product. So I have a rep, and it's made. It's one of those great products that are made in Germany that the U.S. won't allow. So will allow over the counter. So yeah, but I have those, and I think it's like $25 for a tube, but a tube lasts you like forever. Yeah, Deep Blue is excellent. I've started using on my clients that have pain issues. I use a combination of the Deep Blue and the Inflammiar. So not only is it helping with like the Deep Blue serves as like topical analgesic, but adding the Inflammiar to it is kind of like a double whammy. It does both pain and inflammation at the same time.
Thank you so much, George. Wow, so amazing your knowledge and
Can we
your
pick up
patience
today?
in responding to all of the questions. And so I'm hopeful that everybody got a lot of good information and knowledge. And we'll go ahead and send over the recording to you guys and how to get in touch with George if you guys are interested in speaking further with him. But thank you all so much for coming today.